I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. Before we proceed, I want to acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Adirondack, and the Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements, such as the dish with one spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two-row wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed the settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect. And the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island. Would you all please rise for the invocation?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, the roll call.
Your Worship, all members of council are present.
There's no addendum this evening. I just have one announcement, and that is with respect to the short-term rental bylaw. On July, which we passed earlier this year and which was appealed, on July 15th, 2024, the Ontario Land Tribunal advised the town that the appeal filed by a neighborhood group regarding both the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for short-term rentals was dismissed due to the royal assent of Bill 185. As a result, the short-term rental bylaws numbers 001 and 002/2024 are now in effect. These bylaws permit dedicated short-term rentals in commercial zones where residential uses are permitted, the R2B zone within the Crystal Beach neighborhood, and waterfront residential zone west of Craft Road to the western boundary of the town on Lake Erie. Moreover, owner-occupied short-term rentals are permitted within all residential zones that permit both a principal dwelling unit and an accessory or secondary dwelling unit. While the bylaws are in effect, there is still a current license limit of 250 in any given year, as stipulated in the short-term rental licensing bylaw. The town has currently reached its license limit. Staff will be preparing a report for council to consider modifications to the short-term rental licensing bylaw to align with the zoning amendments, and it is anticipated that that report will come forward in the early fall of 2024. So that takes us then to declarations of pecuniary interest. There are none. That takes us then to notice of upcoming public meetings and open houses, and I have no announcements in that regard. So that takes us to the regional councillors report, and I see Councillor Insigne, you're here.
Good evening, Mayor Redekop.
Good evening.
I did make it in.
Perfect.
Councillors, staff, members of the public. The Niagara Region will again be seeking to allot funds from the levy to the Niagara Prosperity Initiative to keep in line with Niagara Poverty Reduction Strategy. Last year, the region allocated $1.2 million to the NPI, a reduction from previous years of $1.5 million. The initiative is solely funded by the Niagara Region, and no funds are received from the province for this. The Poverty Reduction Strategy that was released in March 2024 was a culmination of roundtables from within communities that came up with 8 areas of focus. The areas of focus being the Indigenous well-being, housing, income, employment, food security, early childhood development, transportation, and mental health and addiction. The Niagara Prosperity Initiative, initiated in 2008, made investments with 6 principal objectives: low-income people becoming more self-sufficient, improving living conditions for low-income people, building opportunities for low-income folks, agencies increase capacity to achieve results, and strengthening family and supportive environments, with creating partnerships among supporters and providers to low-income people. The region will now be funding the initiative by a grant program. Funds will be provided to community organizations who apply in order to develop and deliver targeted programs in line with the Niagara Prosperity Initiative. This is now in the hands of local agencies to apply for funding to help them deliver their programs and assist the low-income people. This fall, 2024, applications can be submitted by the organizations for funding. As many know, the 2025 budget workshops begin this month and will continue to a finalized budget, hopefully by the end of the year. Several issues have come to light regarding Niagara Regional Transit as of late, especially with the specialized transit. Recently, there have been failures on the part of NRT to fulfill its obligation to some residents in Fort Erie using the specialized transit. I would encourage council to please let me know of any instance that they are aware of. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Insina. I have to tell you that I had a preliminary budget meeting this afternoon, and yeah, my reaction was a little more anxious. In any event, that the reports that we looked at have now been published, so they're on your eScribe agenda, and they would be on the region's website. I just want to caution everyone that those are initial numbers, and Councillor Christensen.
Through you, Your Worship, I'd like to ask the regional councillor if you have the name of the grant program. There are a number of organizations in Fort Erie that I think would be eligible and eminently suitable. Do you have the name of the grant program or the deadline or anything?
It's, through you, Your Worship, it's the Niagara Prosperity Initiative Grant Fund. Normally, what they're saying is in the fall of 2024, people or organizations can apply. Rather than what they used to do prior is to cast a wide brush and say, give money to each organization. What they're saying to now is to organizations, tell us what you need, how you're going to apply it, how you're going to help people who are in low-income poverty issues.
Thank you.
Councillor McDermott.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One is with regards to Stevensville Road. I've had numerous constituents from Stevensville call me and tell me that the traffic incoming from Ridgeway going up to the highway in the mornings is terribly crazy. And that being said, there are lots of speeders on the road. There are some stunt drivers there that will pass you on a rail crossing. I sat out there a couple hours one morning at one of the residence homes, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. So my question is there any street quelling methods that you could enter into as a region, or is there maybe some need for extra policing on that street during the morning hours?
Through you, Mayor Redekop, this has been brought up to the attention of Public Works. I brought this up. I will bring it forward again. I have heard this before, and like yourself, with regards to the traffic, as in speed-wise for I believe it's 50 through part of it, they will not entertain going down to 40. That was brought up at Public Works. That was one of the issues that I was kind of shot down on, because it didn't fit that. So I will take this back, and again, at Public Works, I will hammer away at them again. Because, and you're right, I have brought it up from Dominion Road all the way through to Queen Elizabeth. And I believe Mayor Redekop and I have talked before about an alternative route somewhere. Something has to happen in order to quell some of that traffic.
You might, when you do take this up with Public Works, you might want to request that there be those speed monitoring signs that we've been circulating around the town. I know the region has them. There's one there now.
Just one more question, Your Worship, if I could.
Yep.
I applaud the region for taking on this strategy. But the fact of the matter is, for anybody that knows the background, ODSP and Ontario Works people have been a forgotten lot since 2018. So there's no increases in rents from back in 2018. You have a family of 5, for instance, you know, the single parent will get about $1,300, I guess. Then you get the kids stuff and the food and the clothes and pay the bills on your baby bonus, which is almost an impossibility to do. So my question is, I know a couple of people that were in need of emergency housing. So for people that have 4 or 5 children, that housing is truly not available in an emergency situation. Can you explain that to me a little bit?
Through you, Mayor Redekop. Yes. I can give you some light on, I don't, I would like to have someone from social services come in and talk to you.
Right.
But what I can say is that you are correct. There is no emergency housing here in Fort Erie. There have been a couple attempts and messages that have been sent saying that things need, what they're doing now is they are sending people via cab to Niagara Falls to hopefully a hotel room or some place that they have a room. If it's a family, they will attempt to keep them together. There is no guarantee that they're going to have a room. Unfortunately, and I hate to say it, we don't have the money from the provincial government to look after these things. And as you stated, ODSP goes back to 2018. If you look at the amount of inflation that's gone up from 2018 till now, you're going to be well over 15, 20%. And yet we're still, I think it's a single person is now $1,000 or $1,100 that they have to pay their bills with, they have to do everything else with. I believe this is the second letter that is being sent through Jim Bradley, through Chair, to the Minister, saying it needs to be addressed. Social services right now are doing the best they can with what they have. But right now, I believe the number is at 3,500 that are homeless right now, which is, to me, that's way unacceptable. That shouldn't even be close to that. But they're doing what they can with the funds they have. And again, with the Prosperity Initiative. There are programs out there. There are programs at the region. If people are stuck, they can apply for assistance for their rent. It doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you can apply for it. And I believe it has to go through their worker, their social worker.
So, Councillor Insinn, I wonder if you could provide Councillor McDermott with a contact name.
Absolutely.
At Community Social Services, number one. Number two, Councillor McDermott, I wonder if you might consider a notice of motion with respect to this ODSP issue, something that we could pass on to the province and maybe seek support through AMO and other municipalities.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll do that. I just want to thank Councillor Insinn. I know that he listens to me talk about this on a regular basis, and I know that his heart's in the right place, and we need the provincial government to start funding these programs. And so I appreciate everything he's done, and I just want people to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to you, Councillor Christensen, I'm going to go over to Councillor Dubanow, then Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And through you to Councillor Encina, just to touch on what Councillor McDermott had mentioned about the speeding on Stevensville Road. I've been down there in the morning as well, dropping my son off at the zoo for camp and things, and it's a gong show. I mean, let's not mince words here. It's insane if you need to turn left from Eagle Street onto Stevensville Road in the morning. I've brought up in the past discussions about, getting serious about a Stevensville bypass, whether we use Winger Road or something along that. I'm just wondering, with you being on Public Works and some of the other committees up there at the region, I've had conversations with Mayor Redekop about this. I'm just wondering if perhaps you two, being our second representative, if we can start getting the ball rolling on that or get a serious discussion. Because with the growth that we have going on in Fort Erie, especially out in Ridgeway, Crystal Beach, and Stevensville as well, it's really not going to be feasible to have all that traffic funneling through like an old downtown core. So I'm just wondering if that's something you can perhaps get that conversation going. I don't want to take it away from Mayor Redekop. I just figure the more hands on deck that we have about this, the better. So I'm just wondering if you could do that.
Through you, Mayor Redekop, that stretch of roadway was intended to be in the transportation master plan. I have asked that it be removed because if it remains in the transportation master plan, you're looking at anywhere from, 3 to 5 years to have anything implemented. I've asked them to remove that because it needs to be dealt with now. That was brought forward 2 meetings ago at Public Works, and I will bring it forward again to make sure that it hasn't been lost.
Anything further, Councillor Dubanow?
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Councillor Encina.
Councillor Noyes?
You may Redekop through you to Councillor Encina. Again, Stevensville Road. I do understand it has come up in the Traffic Coordinating Committee meeting on a regular basis, and Region is represented there. Now, when is Stevensville Road, I'm planning to be redone from, I think it's Eagle Street to Bowen? What's the timing of that? Do we know yet?
Through you, Mayor Redekop, I believe the first phase was actually to do the bridge by Maze. And I thought it was supposed to have gone into the planning stage this year, but I don't believe it did because the money wasn't there for it. So it's been pushed, one of those projects that has been pushed to the next year. I will look into that for you to see if in fact when and how it's going to be done.
Thank you. And one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is because of the speed on that road. I too get many complaints about that. But I understand that when that road is going to be redone, they're really going to put in traffic calming measures to hopefully slow down the traffic. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the design. Thank you.
Anyone else before I go back to Councillor Christensen? Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. With respect to the discussion around the fact that Niagara Region is not sufficiently funded for its most vulnerable residents, I suggest that you might want to request regional staff to go back to discussions that happened when they, in about the late 1990s, when the current role as service system managers was delegated to regional municipalities like Toronto, York, Durham Region, Halton, and Niagara. At that time, there was a considerable concern by particularly York, Durham, and Halton that they were now, as fully urbanized regions, taking on responsibility for the most vulnerable that had, and requiring fundings that for 40 or 50 years had been given to Toronto, because everybody went to Toronto if you had a vulnerable child or you were homeless or whatever, that it became a magnet. That with the changes and the growth, that was no longer, that transition to Toronto wasn't happening, but the services were still, the service money was going to Toronto. They did a
Okay,
calculation.
Councillor Christensen, I know that this is valuable information for Councillor Encina, but this is for questions, so maybe you could pass that information on to him.
All right.
He's been taking notes in any event, and
Okay.
he just needs some finer points. Any other questions of the regional councillor? Sorry to cut you off there, but I think he's got the point, and you and he can share that information. Okay, if there are no other questions of the regional councillor, we have no presentations or delegations, we have no public meetings this evening. We have a consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? If not, Councillor Flagg, you have the resolution.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dubanow, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that council approves the consent agenda as recommended.
Any questions or comments? I note in the Council and Committee meeting of July the 8th, Councillor Dubanow had requested some information about the status of some infrastructure in the east end of the town. I don't know whether you received a response to that or not.
I didn't, Your Worship, but I was just, I was leaving it to staff to get the response whenever, I know there's been a lot of holidays in IS, so I was giving them more time.
Don't want that to get lost. Mr. Chevalier, I see you're here for Mr. Walsh. And that is item 9.1, wait a second, 9.3.1 in the Council and Committee minutes on our agenda, in case that's been lost. And the other thing I noticed that we have a motion, we have a resolution with respect to state of healthcare in Ontario. The motion itself doesn't indicate that we're going to be sending this off to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario or the American AMA. I presume that we're going to do that in the event this is passed. Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Basically on 11.2.3, in regards to the application for the noise bylaw exemption for Stevens Road, I do understand that once they start, it's going to create a huge problem for the residents. It is a major, we were just talking about, it is a major thoroughfare from getting from Niagara Falls to Ridgeway and Crystal Beach and et cetera. I'm just wondering, timing. I mean, that's when the beach is open, that's when zoos is open. Like, did anybody kind of put their thinking hat on and say, gee, maybe this isn't the right time to start it? And maybe we should be looking at October, November instead of August and September? I mean, I'm questioning the timing of this.
Mr. Chevalier, do you have any insights into this? This is the request to waive the noise bylaw with respect to construction on Stevensville Road.
Through Mayor Redekop to the councillor, I don't have any insight other than the letter we received from the region requesting the exemption from the noise bylaw. I could inquire and get back to you.
It looks like there's a 2 or 3 day window on a couple of occasions during that period of time. So, Councillor Noyes, are you suggesting that we defer this or that we approve this and have staff follow up with some clarification?
Well, I think we should probably pass it because the road does need to get done. But again, I would strongly encourage them to look at that. That's the busiest time. Like, I mean, if they really wanted to pick a worse time, I don't think they could have.
They could have commenced in July.
Yeah, I guess they could have done July and August instead of August, September. But if there's any way that they could push it into the later fall, I think everybody would greatly appreciate it. On top of that, I'm sure the region will have. We were just talking about earlier about the need for a roundabout, not a roundabout, but another way of getting around. I think people will have to find another way of getting around, and Winger Road will probably be the detour. Thank you.
Okay, and I if you receive any complaints about noise or whatever, please make sure that you pass those on to staff. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments with respect to the consent agenda, I'm going to call the question on the recommendations and the proclamations. All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. That then takes us to reports, and the first report is PDS 46-1 for 2024. And Councillor Christensen, I see that you have the motion.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that council receives report PDS 46/2024 attached as Appendix 1 for information, and further that council approves the draft plan of vacant land condominium dated February 9th, 2023 for the lands known as 3770 Hazel Street, showing 13 blocks intended for 93 townhouse dwellings as illustrated in Appendix 3 of Report PDS 46-1-2024 in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13, and the regulations thereunder, subject to the conditions contained in Appendix 6 of Staff Report PDS 46-1-2024, and further that Council directs staff to circulate the conditions of draft plan approval in Appendix 6 of Staff Report PDS 46-1-2024 to the applicable agencies in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Questions or comments? Okay, this is 3770 Hazel Street. Councillor Dubanow, were you contemplating perhaps deferring this a little further to get some further clarity on some issues?
Yeah, Your Worship, I was just waiting to see if anyone else had any comments. I think,
I think we all have lots of comments. I think we're just not wanting to get into them right now if we can
yeah.
marshal them.
So let's, I'll do this, Your Worship. I believe our next committee meeting is August 12th.
It is.
Is that correct? So then I'd like to move that we postpone this report until August 12th, 2024.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Christensen. That was fast.
That was a rocket. A rocket.
I noticed that you kind of moved away. Okay, so that's on the floor. It's not debatable. The timing then is defer this report to consideration August the 12th, 2024. All those in favor? That's unanimous. So we'll be dealing with this on August 12th. And I would imagine there'll be lots of discussion then. Okay, that takes us to report PDS 51, and Councillor Dubanow, you have that report.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Flagg that Council approves the amendments to the town's consolidated 2021 official plan as detailed in Report PDS 51-2024 for the lands known as 0-17507 Netherby Road, and further that Council approves the amendment to the town zoning bylaw 12990 as detailed in Report PDS 51-2024 for the lands known as 0-17507 Netherby Road, and further that Council directs staff to submit the necessary official plan and zoning bylaw amendment bylaws, and further, that council approves the Black Creek Signature Phase 2 revised draft plan of subdivision dated December 12th, 2027, showing 77 lots for single detached dwellings, 10 blocks for a total of 52 street townhouse dwellings, 2 blocks for a municipal park, 1 block for a 3-meter wide pedestrian walkway, 1 block for a stormwater pond, 2 blocks for a water course, 4 blocks for a 4 blocks for 0.3 meter reserves, and 2 new public streets as illustrated in Appendix 4 of Report PDS 51-2024 in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 P13, and the regulations thereunder, subject to the conditions contained in Appendix 8 of Report PDS 51-2024, and further, that Council directs staff to circulate the conditions of draft plan approval in Appendix 8 of Report PDS 51-2024 to the applicable agencies in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Thank you. And Councillor Noyes, I understand that you have an amendment with respect to the conditions of draft approval for this report?
Yeah, yes, I do. Is now the time to introduce that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that Council amend Appendix 8, Conditions of Draft Plan of Subdivision, approval by removing condition number 40 and replacing it with the following: that the owner submits a Stage 3 archaeological assessment for locations 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8, as identified in Figure 5 of the archaeological assessment prepared by Mayer Heritage Consultants Incorporated and dated December 2005, prepared by a licensed archaeologist to the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism for review and approval with a copy provided to the Niagara Region. The report must be accepted by the ministry to the satisfaction of the Niagara Region prior to clearance of this condition. It should be noted that if a stage 4 assessment is recommended for any of the above noted locations to mitigate any adverse impacts to significant archaeological resources found on the site through preservation or resource removal and documentation, this report must also be submitted to and accepted by the ministry with a copy provided to the Niagara Region. If the development proceeds in phases, a subdivision agreement may be entered into excluding lands impacted by Location 2. Location 2 may be cleared as part of the future phase pending completion of Stage 4 archaeological assessment of that site. Site mitigation measures, strategies to be outlined for Site 2 by a licensed archaeologist and accepted by the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism prior to finalizing the subdivision agreement. Note, no demolition, grading, or other soil disturbances shall take place on the subject property prior to the issuance of a letter from the ministry confirming that all archaeological resource concerns have been mitigated and meet licensing and resource conservation requirements. If the development proceeds in phases, site alteration may occur with the exception of Location 2. If archaeological resources concerns for the other archaeological sites are adequately mitigated along with the associated ministry letters to the satisfaction of the Niagara Region.
Are there any questions or comments with respect to the amendment? Councillor Noyes.
Well, I guess to the amendment. I was trying to find something that showed me where location 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8 were. I hit the little blue lines where it says archaeological assessment, stage 2. I can't, when I hit it, nothing shows up. So I'm just wondering, is it possible for us to actually see where all those spots are? When I hit the line, nothing. I get nothing.
So you're talking about the link that's contained in the report.
Yeah, I get,
So is that, Ms. Dilwari, is it possible for you to circulate a map that shows where those sites are located within the plan of subdivision?
Yes, Your Worship, I would be able to do that.
You'll circulate that to all members of council?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Noyes?
so are we just talking about the amendment now, or are we talking about the whole report?
Just talking about the amendment. We haven't voted on that yet.
Okay, I'm just wondering, were the owners made aware of this? Like, we were just made aware of this today, the changes, so I'm just wondering, were the owners also made aware that this was coming before us tonight?
Ms. Dilwari?
My understanding that the owners have been made aware of this, a change in condition.
Okay, and just further, did they have a chance to respond? Or have they responded?
Well, I think whether they respond or not, this is a condition
Yeah,
that
it's
is
a
going to
condition,
have
yeah.
to be included, and it's something that the region is requesting.
Okay, fine, I always like to hear what the owners have to say too when it affects them directly. That's all on the
Yeah,
amendment.
fair enough. Any other questions with respect to the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
No choice.
None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Noyes, you had some comments you wanted to make relative to the report itself?
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge the efforts of the owners of this property. I know that they met with me, they met with other homeowners that property abuts them. They've taken great care in trying to meet and address people's issues. And I can remember when we were talking about this, we had a number of issues, everything from wanting the park removed to perhaps include the stormwater management pond to not having the park surrounded by by 3 roads. Everything from changing the path to where it was to the other side, changing the number of townhouses to kind of break up the townhouses, to even decreasing the number of homes that they're putting up. And I think that they've addressed each one of them and have basically made major changes to their plan, which I think is a much more, I think it'll be much better for the neighborhood, and I want to appreciate the efforts that they put in, because changing site plans, I'm sure is not an easy task. I think this is the 3rd time we've asked them to change their site plans, but I did want to acknowledge their efforts, and I will say that the residents that they spoke to were very happy that their issues were met. They even visited the homeowners on the abutting property, so again, I don't think they could have done more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Noyes. Anyone else? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, Your Worship, I just want to similarly comment. I had an opportunity to speak to the developers and kind of look at their site plan that they had proposed after hearing the input that we had from council that night. And it was, basically, they listened. They took every issue that we had to heart. They resolved the issue with the entrance off Netherby Road. They managed to combine the park with the stormwater management pond, move it into an area where it provided kind of some separation from the residents who are already on River Trail and Black Creek Drive. I was thoroughly impressed with the work that they put into this and the way that they addressed the issues that we raised. Certainly, I'm looking forward to seeing this move forward. I think once that area kind of fills out and we have that nice park and the integration into the stormwater management pond, I'm hoping that that's a template that we can kind of use moving forward and kind of look at for some of the developments in the future. I think it's going to be really nice, just looking at it from a site plan perspective. So I just want to make that comment, thank staff, thank the developer and the proponent for moving forward with this. I think this is a good example of how the two-part process, the information report, having the public meeting, and then going back and then having the discussion and the recommendation report, why that's so critical and how well it can work to come up with something that, everyone is, happy with and that, works well for the community. So those were my comments, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Dubanow. Anyone else? Before I go back to Councillor Noyes, anyone else? No? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you. I did have it written down. I did forget. My one concern, though, is the wastewater management fund. I think we all received an email from Mr. Hunter explaining his concerns about the current problem on Black Creek Road, hooking it up to that to that sewer system right now. When there has been problems in the past with surcharges and everything else, that hooking up all these homes to the same outlet, like not outlet, but the same sewer, the same piping, may not be the best solution, particularly when I think and I'm not an engineer, but phase one is done, and phase one has sewers and their pipes are actually bigger than the Black Creek, where they're planning on hooking up. Is there any way that they could look at hooking up this new, like part 2 to part 1? I don't understand, I'm not an engineer, but that pipe is bigger, it's newer, it's only a few years old, and it all goes to the same place. So I'm just wondering if has there been any consideration to putting the wastewater in that direction as opposed to hooking it up to the one that already runs along Black Creek Road?
There has, Councillor Noyes, and we did receive a lengthy memo from Mr. Vanderveen relative to the concerns raised by Mr. Hunter, and I'm going to ask Ms. Dilwari to respond to some of those things, and you can have reference to that memo if you wish. The answer that was given is that it would require this pipe to cross over the creek, and so there's some concern about that. Ms. Dilwari.
Yes, Your Worship. So the memo that had Mr. Vanderveen had circulated, it talks about there was an option to connect the services through phase 1, but that is not a very feasible option because they would have to go through a water course, which may create problems, and ultimately everything is going to connect to Black Creek. So whether they connect through phase 1 or go directly into Black Creek, it's going to go to the same system. And it's my understanding the concerns that we have with the wastewater is not in the town's infrastructure, it's with the pumping station. And the region has clarified they have included 2 conditions in the draft plan that will ensure that when this project will go through, will proceed forward, these stormwater issues and the wastewater issues will be addressed.
Councillor Noyes.
Thank you for that explanation. I do know that there's a water, it's not the creek, it's a tributary of the creek that we're talking about. So if they can't do it, they can't do it. But there has been problems in the past with the pumping station, and we've had the same, the region will take care of it, the region's going to look in it, the region's going to do this, this, and this, but nothing changes. I mean, we have surcharges on a regular, I wouldn't say regular basis, but we do have when there's a heavy rainfall, they're trucking it. There's not enough capacity when there's a water event for that. And again, there has been sewer backups into people's homes. And again, I don't think they're really looking at the capacity here, that when you add all these homes to what already exists, that we're going to be able to, you know, to take care of it, without having the problems in the homes.
Ms. Dewaria, did you want to make further comment?
Your worship, only thing that I could say is the applicant already has a draft plan approval in place. They are coming in because they wanted to make some changes to the zoning, and so if council doesn't approve it, they can proceed with the draft plan approval which is in place. And to safeguard and to put council's mind at ease, only thing that I could mention is this is a draft plan approval that we are giving them. They would not be able to proceed with the construction till the time they address the condition imposed by the region. And the service allocation is usually done as part of the registration of the site of the subdivision plan, and it would be taken care of as part of the condition.
Councillor Noyes?
Thank you.
So, Ms. Dewaria, just on that point, it very much sounds like the region is pitting developers against developers in terms of when they'll actually get an allocation. So we have Spring Creek Estates, which is 340 or thereabouts units. That, if it goes online first, that then jeopardizes any approval we would give here. Or if we give an approval here and they proceed, that could jeopardize Spring Creek Estates. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. That's usually the region's, that's how they operate. They would say whenever whoever would come in, they cannot allocate the requirement for servicing just based on draft plan. That's usually done as part of the registration when they would satisfy the condition. And this is a part of a bigger discussion that town needs to have with the region, and how the upgrade of the servicing has to happen, of the pumping station has to happen, so we can allow these development to move in a timely fashion.
Well, we have been having those discussions. This is a pumping station in Douglastown. There's a pumping station on Nye Road. There's a pumping station at the bottom of Catherine Street. I'm sure there are other pumping stations, all of which are impediments to the ability to move forward. Anyways, I had a couple of other questions, if I might, Ms. Dewaria. And the first one had to do with the pond. The report made reference to the fact that some people had raised issues about a pond. I think Mr. Hunter, when he was here, maybe made reference to the pond that's in the middle of this property. The report seems to say that it's not on the town's, it's not referred to in the town's planning documents. It's not in the region or the Conservation Authority documents. But if you look at the map, I mean, if you look at the aerial, you can see this pond smack in the middle of the property. So surely there must be more than just a tabletop refusal to recognize an existing pond.
Bishop, I would like to defer that question to Mr. Vanderveen. Like, he must have had discussion with the agencies regarding that pond.
Is Mr. Vanderveen here? He's hiding. And that's, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, we did circulate Niagara Region and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and neither of them identified that pond as having any natural heritage value. We did also reach out to our development engineering staff, and given the layout of the plan, that pond will need to be removed. However, obviously there will be a stormwater pond just to the east of there. All of the stormwater will be directed into that pond.
Do we know how the water gets into that pond?
Not currently, it's just thought to be just a low-lying area.
Okay, well, I have to say I'm not too comfortable with that. The other question that I had, since you're up there, had to do with the, some question was raised about the tree planting on Baker Road relative to the phase one. I don't think there are going to be any hydro lines that are going to be affecting any of the tree planting in here. But I would hope that, and maybe you can confirm this, that as we go through these processes from development to development, there will be attention paid to overhead lines, because it makes no sense to plant a tree under a hydro line. So going forward, is that something that we've recognized and are going to be making sure we address?
Yeah, to you, Mayor Redekop. So I had a chat with development engineering about that. Point taken. I think it was a bit of a unique circumstance in the sense that The Canadian Niagara Power hydro poles were already existing on Baker Road. So the developer at the time wasn't required to relocate them, but yeah, on a go-forward basis, obviously we want our street trees to be healthy and not interfere with power lines, so every effort would be made to ensure there's no conflicts.
If I might, there is a condition 35 that deals with fencing, and I don't know if you have the condition in front of you, but it deals with fencing in the vicinity of the park, in the vicinity of the stormwater management pond, in the vicinity of the trail. We're not going to be requiring the developer to fence off the stormwater management pond, are we?
To Mayor Redekop, you are correct. So the stormwater management pond will not be fenced off. Fencing will only be installed kind of along the backs of any residential parcels along Black Creek Road, also along the lots that will back onto the water course to prevent.
Or the boundary, I suppose, of the property.
Right.
Okay. And then, finally, I didn't notice any provision that prohibited site alteration, with the exception of the one that dealt with the archaeology. Would we not ordinarily have a provision that prohibits site alteration until there's been approval? Or there's been a pre-servicing agreement approved?
To Mayor Redekop, that's more development engineering's wheelhouse. Perhaps Director DeLaria can speak to that.
Ms. Delaria?
Yes, Your Worship, that's usually the requirement, that no pre-service, I mean, they would have to apply for pre-servicing and no site alteration is permitted till the time the registration has happened. That's an unsaid policy, but I agree with you that could be included as part of the conditions.
So we would need an amendment to include that as a condition?
We could include that, yes.
As a condition, as by amendment. Anyone wish to move that? Councillor Noyes, seconded by Councillor Flagg. Any questions or comments about including that? No site alteration without pre-servicing agreement or permit. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Van der Veen.
Thank you.
I have no other questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? If not, then I'm going to call the question on the recommendations in the report. All those in favor? That is carried. That takes us to new business inquiries, and Councillor Christensen, you have a resolution regarding the Senior Citizens Advisory Board.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that Council accepts the resignation of Barbara Hopkins from the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, and further that Council directs staff to proceed with filling the vacancy in accordance with the procedural bylaw.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on Barbara Hopkins. She has been an integral member of the Senior Advisory Committee for decades. She's always, I think she usually takes the secretary's role, which is something, a thankless role, but a lot of work to be done. She's one of the worker bees, and I wish her all the best. And really, she's her heart was always in it, and I think I'm sad to see her go. Thank you.
Yeah, no, good comments. Councillor Christensen.
I'd like to echo Councillor Noyes' comments. Barbara's loss is a huge one for the committee, because not only did she serve as secretary, which we all appreciated, but she was also fundamental to ensuring that the work got done of the committee, and keeping us, actually she acted almost as Mr. Todd, as our clerk, in ensuring that we complied with all of the rules and regulations of the town. She has made a remarkable contribution. So.
Thank you very much for those comments. If there are no further, then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Are there any other inquiries or any other new business that anyone wishes to raise? Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if maybe staff can look into this. I had a resident reach out to me regarding a program in which local artists can work with the municipality, BIAs, and other organizations in the community to actually do some artwork on the Bell Canada boxes. And I don't know if any individuals have had the opportunity to travel around Welland right now. I'm working there, so I'm there all the time. But they actually have significant artwork on the bell boxes. One of them outside of Welland County General actually has a jersey of the local hockey team painted on it and kind of Welland. There's ones that have flower patterns out on Thorold Road and down in that area as well. And the individual who reached out to me, she was involved in painting these and working with artists in Welland, but she's a Fort Erie resident. So she reached out and she said, you know, typically Bell, they want buy-in from the municipality, any BIAs that are involved in the community. They, you know, there's an approval process. It's not like graffiti where people just go out and randomly paint it. The designs are approved. It's something that is looked at and done very thoughtfully. So I'm just wondering if maybe staff can look into this. I had had some dialogue with the individual, but schedules didn't work out. I was hoping that maybe she could, you know, do a delegation and kind of talk about it some more. But we definitely have an interest from some artists in the community, and I'm just wondering if maybe staff could, you know, even if, you know, if this is something they're agreeable to entertaining and maybe what requirements are for the municipality, because I think we might have an opportunity to showcase some of the work that our artists can do in the community and kind of make those drab, you know, brown and beige boxes, you know, kind of be enhancing the streetscape rather than, you know, just looking like a plain box. So that, I'm just wondering if maybe staff can come back and share some thoughts on that, what they think.
McQueen, could we spare a staff person to contact the city of Welland, find out what they know about this? Obviously, if it's Bell boxes, it's going to have to be, Bell Canada is going to have to approve it. What they would require for the municipality, I don't know, but is that something that we can do without having to go through a report and what have you?
Yeah, we'll look into the program. I was just Googling while Councillor Dubanow was there, and there's a number of communities that have done it. So we'll get information on the program and bring that back.
Okay, Councillor Dubanow?
Yeah, and Mr. McQueen, if it's all right, I can actually pass, if you're okay with it, I'll pass your contact information out to the individual. She seemed very familiar with the application process and everything else. She might be able to provide some insight as well. She just had mentioned that Bell insists that the municipality be on board with it and the BIAs and that it be an agreement and, you know, not running in other directions. So I'll get her in touch with you, Mr. McQueen.
Okay, anyone else? If not, then that takes us to a closed session, and Councillor McDermott, you have the resolution for that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that Council does now go into closed session at 6:54 p.m. to consider the following: 14.1 closed meeting minutes, July 8, 2024; 14.2 PDS 45-2024. Change conditions of draft plan approval, 613 Helena Street pursuant to Section 239E of the Municipal Act 2001. Litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. 14.3 Fort Erie Public Library Board appointment pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. So we're off to closed session. We're back in the council chambers, and Councillor Lewis, you have the resolution for us to rise and reconvene from closed session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott. The council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 7:37 p.m. with report. 14.1, that council approves the closed session minutes of July 8th, 2024. 14.2, that staff proceed as directed in closed session. And 14.3, that council appoints Andrew Caird to the Fort Erie Public Library Board for the term ending November the 14th, 2026, or until their successor is appointed.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is unanimous. That takes us then to motions, of which there are none. Are there any notices of motion? I have a notice of motion with respect to Niagara Transit and a request that Niagara Transit institute a conventional service on what used to be the Green Line, which is the east part of Fort Erie, in conjunction with on-demand throughout the community. That'll be returnable at the August the 26th, I think it is, council meeting. Councillor McDermott, did you want to contemplate a motion regarding the ODSP? You don't have to have anything other than the desire to put it on as a notice of motion and maybe for August, and then you can work out the details.
Yes, I would, Your Worship.
Okay, you got that, Mr. Clerk? Okay. Anyone else? If not, that takes us then to consideration of bylaws. Are there any bylaws that anyone wishes removed from the package? If not, Councillor Flagg, would you proceed with first and second reading? Sorry, Mr. Page, your third and final reading. So, Councillor Noyes, the pages in my package are
I was
reversed.
to say, I think it's me.
It is.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that bylaw package containing 74-2024 to appoint Kelly O'Connor as fire inspector for the Corporation of the Town of Fort Erie. Bylaw 75-2024 to assume primary services for Crystal Ridge Landing subdivision phases 1, 2, and 3 in brackets 59M-465. 13727008 Ontario Incorporated in brackets Von Gibbons owner. Bylaw 76-2024 to assume primary services for Deerwood subdivision in brackets 59M-397 in brackets -1736105 Ontario Incorporated, John Kendall owner. Bylaw 77-2024 to designate 3555 Yacht Harbor Road as being of cultural heritage value or interest. Bylaw 78-2024 to assume primary services for High Point subdivision phases 1, 2, and 3 in brackets 59M-459. Marina in brackets Green Acres Development Limited owner. I don't have a name. Bylaw number 79-2024 to permanently close a portion of Ashwood Avenue North. Bylaw 80-2024 to permanently close portions of Shirkston Road, Ridge Road North, and Bowen Road. Bylaw 81-2024 to authorize debenture financing for Fire Station 4 project are given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Those bylaws are on the floor for any questions or comments. If none, Councillor Flagg, third and final reading, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott, the bylaws 74-2024 to 81-2024 inclusive are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to Councillor McDermott, first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that bylaw 82-2024 to confirm the actions of council at its council meeting held on July 8, 2024, and its council meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Lewis, third and final reading.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaw 82-2024 is given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. That takes us then to scheduling of meetings. Any meetings anyone wishes to announce? Councillor Christensen.
Yes, Your Worship. On August 6th at 3:15, the Planning and Development Services Business Subcommittee will be meeting. On August the 7th at 10 a.m. at Douglas Heights Senior Center, the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee meets. And August 7th at 5:30 p.m. at the Crystal Ridge Library, the Ridgeway BIA meets.
Thank you. Anyone else? Did you have your hand up, or you just? Okay. Well, I just saw a hand move, and I wasn't sure. That takes us then to Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Flagg, that council adjourns at 7:43 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on August 26, 2024.
All those in favor? Opposed? Preoccupied? That is carried.
Back in her bag.
You're already gone.
He's already out of here.